Hi everybody and welcome to Gravel Union Talks, a podcast series full of inspiring stories, news and events from the world of gravel. Each month we will be talking with guests who are passionate about riding off the beaten track, adventure riding, bikepacking and gravel racing. I'm your host Carlo, and behind the microphone, all the way from Nepal, Olly. Olly, how you doing?
Sadly not in Nepal anymore, but freshly back from Nepal at least.
Yeah, so, we're going to talk about your trip a little later. So, in every episode we have a guest, and today it's all about Katherine Moore. At some point, probably all gravel riders have given some tips to friends about where to find the best trails. It might be just a short section that leads to a newly discovered cafe. It might be a new route across a previously unknown hillside. We suspect that most of us, if asked, would be happy to offer a bit of advice. What if you decide to do this professionally though? The difference between giving advice on one trail and showing someone the best gravel riding in an entire region is pretty huge. Which trails to include? How to keep it legal? Will it spoil the area if there's a sudden influx of out-of-town riders? We will put all these questions and more to our guest in this episode, Katherine Moore, whose first gravel guidebook was published at the start of March. So, but before we go to Katherine, we always have the topic of the month, Olly. What's the topic for this month?
I thought this month we would do Armchair Adventures because it fitted very neatly with Katherine being a proper author. Now she's had a book published. So Armchair Adventures are the long form stories that we publish.
Our mini books.
Sorry, say again.
Our mini books.
Our mini books, exactly. It's not the closest we get. And when we did the first one probably 4 years ago, and it was a total gamble whether anybody would actually read it because it was super long. But we've discovered that our audience really love it. And it's something that we do that very few other digital platforms do. It's the closest that we've got to a print article. So they're quite long. They can be up to 6,000 words, lots of beautiful photographs, quite often a video to go with them. And the aim is that you take the time to read it properly. So you sit in an armchair and you have a glass of beer or a cup of tea or whatever with you while you're reading it.
Yeah, and it's, like you said, it's one of our most popular items. So the gamble, paid off because, it's really something that, I always enjoy reading the articles because it's a longer article, so you really have the time. You will also need to take the time, but you really are involved in the article and also in the adventure that's in the article. So, you selected 3.
Yeah, I did 3 from the last couple of months from a mix of different destinations and a mix of authors. So the first one is the Atlas Mountain Race, which is only just finished and so was kind of fresh at the top of the pile. And it's, for anybody that hasn't heard of it, it's a multi-day bikepacking event in Morocco that starts in Marrakesh, does a huge loop out into the mountains and then finishes in the coast in a place called Essaouira. And it's crazy hard. It's known for probably half of the people that start don't finish because they drop out halfway through. So it's got a reputation of being pretty brutal. And this story came in from Valerio Stuart, who's written quite a few for us before, and he writes brilliantly. And it's a really difficult event to get into, so he was super happy he got a place for it. And it's a story about how his all the things he went through as part of the event. It's pretty hard, but so it's definitely a good read.
Yeah. So that's the hardship that people see or encounter when they do the Atlas Mountain Race, one of the hardest races in the world, I even think. So there's also an article of your hand.
Yeah, I know.
Yourself.
I snuck one of mine in this month because it was because it's fresh. And obviously I'd just been riding in Nepal, so I wrote a story about what it's like to do the Trans-Nepal, which is a multi-day gravel event that starts right in the very north on the Nepali-Tibetan border, goes through the whole country and finishes in the very south on the the Indian-Nepali border. And it's amazing. It was one of those opportunities of a lifetime, particularly getting a chance to ride in Mustang, which is the northern part of Nepal, and is just mind-bogglingly good.
It's also a great read, and you also encountered some hardships.
It was plenty hard. altitude, super cold, crazy long climbs, 20, 30 kilometer long climbs.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Quite rocky as well. So it was good, but it was definitely worth the.
There's one detail that struck me, and I'm afraid of heights myself, a little bit, a little bit much actually. But you also across some bridges that look
some
pretty
of the suspension
sketchy
bridges, which are in the end you get used to it. Once you've done 3 or 4, you start to become immune to it. But you definitely don't want to look down when you're riding across them.
It's like the bridge that you also have on Zwift, where you have there are also wooden bridges, and it feels, when I see the pictures, I'm going like, ah.
Yeah, you can actually feel it sway
as
you go across them. It's interesting. I suppose I'm lucky I don't suffer from vertigo particularly, so it didn't bother me too much. But if you look down, it definitely makes you quite twitchy.
Okay, well, no, well, I don't think that I'm. Yeah, I think probably when you've done one, I would be also over.
You get used to it.
The last one is the Alps. So that's a little closer by.
It's slightly less exotic than Morocco or Nepal, but
still pretty challenging. Yeah.
And this one was based on a route called the Alps Divide, which is a 1,000-kilometer bikepacking route that goes roughly from Lake Geneva down to Monaco. And most people tend to do it starting in Geneva and going south, but this story is all about what it's like to go the other way. And it was the first article that we've had from a writer called Leo Purcell, who did a really super good story. And he sent it in and just said, I've done this amazing trip. I've gotten lots of nice photographs and a good story. Are you interested? And it was brilliant. He did a super good job.
Okay, well, it's like you said, it's a little closer by, so maybe that's one of the adventures that you, would be able to do yourself rather this summer, maybe even already.
Absolutely.
So, because mountain bike racer will be only on next year, and Nepal is something that you should really be prepared for a little bit more. Well, thank you very much. So, again, the highlight of this month is our Armchair articles. So, please check them out on our website. Well, let's go over to Katherine.
Great. Okay, so welcome to this edition of the Gravel Union Talks podcast, and we've got Katherine Moore with us as our guest. Katherine, we looked it up, and it was 3 years since you were last on the show, which is pretty scary how fast that's gone.
Time flies.
But welcome back, and thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us.
Thank you so much for having me. I can't believe it's been 3 years. That's mad.
Yeah, it is. It goes super fast, doesn't it? And a lot's happened in those 3 years. For you particularly, and so today we're going to talk about your your current role, I suppose. But for anyone that didn't listen to the podcast 3 years ago and maybe hasn't heard of you, could you introduce yourselves to our audience, please?
Yeah, absolutely. My name's Katherine Moore, and I hail from the southwest of England. I started off in road cycling, but I'm a very, very keen gravel rider. Also dabble in mountain biking as well. I fell in love with cycling so hard that I had to make it my job, and I've sort of landed in the media world of cycling. I started out at Global Cycling Network, and I was there for a few years, sort of mostly behind the scenes, but a little bit on camera as well, which was good fun. But since then I've been freelance, so I've worked for a number of different titles, including Gravel Union, of course.
The best.
The best. But you might have seen my work in other places, such as Cyclist Magazine, Bike Radar, Red Bull, lots of different ones, which is really lovely because I like to... I don't think I should use the word promiscuous, but I like to hang out with lots of different people across different titles, and that's really good fun. But of course, most latterly, not only writing for magazines, but also writing a book, which has been really interesting. So thank you so much for having me today to talk about that.
No problem. Well, you're not. I think you haven't done yourself justice, because I looked up all the different roles that you do, and you're not just a journalist, are you? Because you've done product testing, you've done ride leading, you've created routes, you've been a podcast host, you're an influencer, even though we don't like that word particularly, and a whole bunch of other things as well. How do you manage to fit all of that into a standard week without going mad?
That's a really good question. I think a lot of people that are listening who are perhaps self-employed or freelance will be nodding along. When I first started, I just said yes to everything and got totally overwhelmed. I think as you become more confident, you sort of cherry pick your opportunities. And I would be lying to say that the last couple of years have been overwhelming due to the state of the bike industry. As a freelancer, I have taken a bit of a hit on that. But also that's given me the opportunity to reach out and do different things, like writing the book, which I probably would have been too busy to do otherwise. So yeah, it's a bit of a juggle, but I absolutely love doing lots of different things, and I like multitasking and juggling about 10 balls at once, so it suits me really well.
Okay. And your book has just been published and is called 24 Routes in the West Country in the UK. We thought we haven't spoken to anybody as a guidebook author specifically before. We've chatted to other people that have done bits of it, but we're going to chat to you really with your author hat on this week. So can you give us some insight into how this opportunity came about for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, I'm usually on the other side of the fence, getting sent books to review or to look at, as I'm sure you are as well. So I had a good relationship with Vertebrate Publishing, which is a UK-based, Sheffield-based sort of adventure book publisher. So they do lots of climbing books, cycling books, hiking, and it's not just guidebooks. They also do autobiographies, like they did Steve Peat, local legend of Sheffield legend of the mountain biking scene. And so I was very familiar with their books, and I had one that came through my letterbox called Gravel Rides Lake District, written by a friend called Andrew Barlow, and I thought, this is beautiful. Why don't I pitch Gravel Rides Dartmoor, which is where I live very close to in the southwest. I moved back home to Devon from Bristol just coming up 3 years ago. So yeah, that's been a big life change for me as well. And I've made really, really good friends with a chap called Sam Voden, who is a fantastic photographer. And we work together quite a lot when I'm doing like bike reviews and things. He takes photos for me. He takes gorgeous pictures, and I thought we could work together. I could do the words, he could do the photographs, and we could put together this guidebook. So I got in touch with Vertebrate, and they were very keen, but they said, now Dartmoor might be a little bit niche, just one national park. So I said, oh, okay, how about Gravel Rides Devon? And we can make it a bit bigger, Devon being quite a big county, 2 coastlines, 2 national parks, a lot going on there. And they said, oh no, how about Gravel Rides Southwest? And that's how it came about. We've got 6 counties. So that's Devon, Cornwall, Somerset, Dorset, Gloucestershire and Wiltshire.
Sorry to barge in here as a mainlander, but all those counties sound familiar, but paint a picture for where's it at? If I look at the topography of the UK, Southwest, I can picture, but maybe you can tell us a little bit more from not being from the UK where we are located right now.
So essentially, if you look at a map of the UK, it's a very large peninsula.
Quite.
On the bottom left-hand corner, reaching from where England joins Wales, right the way down to the tip at Land's End, which is quite well known for everybody doing their Land's End John O'Groats. And then it goes along the south coast, sort of halfway along, across really, towards London, to Dorset there. So it covers quite a big area.
I was going to say, it's a big chunk of the UK, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Because all those names sound familiar. Somerset, Devon. But it's good for me also to have the picture.
Absolutely.
And I think many of our listeners also. So thanks for that.
It's known as the West Country, isn't it? Because it's in the West, I suppose, for obvious reasons. But
yeah, I think some people refer to the West Country. It also includes like parts more Gloucestershire and Herefordshire as well. Yeah. It's quite interesting trying to define these things because they're terms that we use all the time, but actually trying to define these geographical areas can be quite interesting. But yeah, so it's the southwest of England specifically.
There's always something that puzzling me, is completely off topic, but I'm still going to ask. My English teacher always said there were palm trees somewhere at the coastline. Is that true, or because it's had something to do with the ocean? And
as you get down into Cornwall, it's technically subtropical. I think that's correct. You pass one of the lines of latitude, is it?
Yeah.
That makes it. So it's actually parts of the Cornish coast you can grow plants which you can't grow anywhere else in the UK, and there's lots of palm trees on the English Riviera, and it's really beautiful.
It's to do with the Gulf Stream, isn't it? Because the Gulf Stream goes up from the southwest corner up the west coast of the UK and makes it surprisingly warm.
Oh, glad to learn that my English teacher was not making that up, because we were thinking like, okay, anyway. But and that's also included in the whole western region. Yeah. So okay, I got it. Yeah.
The flip side of it being so warm and being next to the Atlantic is it's also very wet. So, that's something we have to deal with largely in the winter months. But also because it's so wet, that means that we have these amazing river valleys. So, swings and roundabouts, we do have this amazing topography as well.
It's very lush and green, isn't it, from slightly hazy memory?
Absolutely.
And some of the river valleys are very steep-sided and they're sinuous. It's proper geography textbook stuff, isn't it? So it's really great riding country because it's so up and down and lots of variety.
The thing I say about the Southwest is that it's really high effort riding.
Okay.
It's quite hard to put together routes that are easy, and there are a few in the book that are designed for really easy rides, designed for beginners, designed to be ridden with families and trailers. But if you're willing to put in the effort and do some of these tougher rides in the Southwest, they are really high effort, but they're really high reward. They're the kind of ride where you're absolutely exhausted by the end of it, but you just think, wow, that was incredible. Mm-hmm. And you get to some incredible viewpoints, some of the descents, parts of the book perhaps verge into mountain biking territory a little bit. And I'm, very clear to say, this is a route for people who like their gravel chunky. Or this is a route who for people, there's a fantastic route around the Forest of Dean, for example, which is very much known as a mountain biking area, really popular mountain biking area in the UK. But you forget that between all of this single track, there are miles and miles and miles of forest gravel roads. And you can do, I think it's about 65k, almost entirely off-road with just a couple of tiny road crossings. And it's amazing. So it's very, very varied as well.
Considering that you've ridden all around the world, why did you pick the Southwest to write your first guidebook?
I think just because the Southwest is home. I grew up in Devon, so I know Devon quite well, although I didn't actually ride as much when I was growing up. And then I lived in Bristol for 6 years, so I got to know Somerset, Wiltshire and Gloucestershire quite well when I was up there. That's when I really started gravel riding. So it just felt really natural. It's the place that I know best. And I think it's really important to iterate that the book isn't 24 routes that I've put together solely on my own. The book champions the work of local people, whether that's event organisers, people that have put together bikepacking routes, people that put together routes designed to be done as an FKT, and shows people little segments of those routes as well. So for example, down in Cornwall, there's a fantastic route put together by Cycling UK called the West Kerno Way, which people might have heard of as a sort of 3 or 4 day bikepacking route. A couple of the routes take segments of those and make them into day loops. Or there's a bikepacking route in Dorset called the Old Chalk Way, which again, I've just taken a little section of that. Or in the Forest of Dean, the route was actually put together by Cara Dixon as part of a 160k route she's done made by Y-Grit 160.
Which sounds really fun.
Yeah. Which, looks amazing, but it just takes in a more manageable chunk of that. So hopefully, if people have a little taste of some of these routes and they really enjoy them, they can think, oh, well, maybe I can go and do the whole thing. But yeah, it's definitely been a big team effort in that respect.
How did you decide which routes to include and which ones not to include? Because narrowing down just to 24 in such a big, it's probably, a quarter of the UK, third of the UK in terms of landmass. So just finding 24 routes, it must be pretty hard. What kind of decision-making did you go through to figure out what you were going to put in, what you were going to miss out?
That's a really good question. I think the first ones that came to mind were those that I knew really well. Events that I've ridden or routes that I've just, ones that really stick in your mind that you think that has to be in there. And then there were a few which are like good local gravel routes or good routes that I know, but they don't quite blow me away. Yeah. And I just thought, that's good, but or things that are sometimes really easy to find elsewhere, I perhaps wouldn't include. I'm really proud of a couple of the routes that are really hidden gems. Like there's one down in Cornwall that goes from Bodmin to a place called the Luxullian Valley and down to Foy. And that's absolutely gorgeous. And I've just never even heard of anybody riding gravel around there. I've ridden it twice now, and I've never seen anybody else on a gravel bike there, but it's absolutely phenomenal. So trying to find, the big classics so that people don't miss out on those, and then these little lesser known routes as well, and trying to combine those has been really good fun.
Great. One of the issues presumably you face is that the UK rights away legislation is extremely strange. I remember Erwin, who we all know, came to Northumberland last year before, to ride, and he couldn't understand at all our difference between footpath and bridleway and byway. And he said, well, it's on the map as a track, why can't I ride it? Because that was how it works in the Netherlands. And he could not get his head around it. What kind of issues have you faced in terms of making sure that the routes are legal, for one, but also, I suppose, moral issues? Do you want to bring lots of people to an area that hasn't had visitors before? Do you want to make them all go to a honeypot site? How did you kind of juggle that?
I think it is tough in the UK for people who aren't experienced route makers or riders to know where to ride in the first place. I think that's why a guidebook is so helpful in the first place. I've been making routes for a long time now, and in a professional capacity for Komoot and Cycling UK, as well as for the book. So everything that I make has to be 100% legal. Even for somebody who's been doing it for years, it's still sometimes really tough to work out if something is legal or not. And specific areas will have really specific bylaws for example, in Bristol, you're allowed to ride bikes in all of the parks. Sort of no questions asked, local bylaw, but that wouldn't apply somewhere else. So it takes quite a lot of digging to find these things. I have had a couple of really frustrating times with routes where there's a track that's like locally acknowledged as fine for riders to use as well as hikers. It might be an open access area where it's a really wide track which would otherwise be a bridleway, but because it's not specifically classed as a bridleway, you can't technically ride it. I had a bit of that on Exmoor that was really frustrating because it was really fantastic, and instead of being able to use that, you had to do like an out and back and use a load of road, which is a real shame, but you just have to do it. I was really lucky that Vertebrate, the publisher, they have an amazing team of in-house editors who not only check the words but literally fine-tooth comb go through every single route and check every single tiny section of trail.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Which is really, that gives me a lot of confidence as well that somebody's gone through.
Second pair of eyes is always good, isn't it?
Definitely, because it's quite easy to miss things. So that's been really good. And in terms of sending people to sites, I think, obviously all of these routes are legal to ride. In the southwest, I think in the height of summer, we do sometimes get issues with over-tourism, especially in Cornwall. I think I've tried to voice as much as possible in the sort of route tips to try and encourage people to visit in spring and autumn, because then you're not, you're not battling the traffic and in the queue for all the cafes, but B, you can just enjoy it a lot more. And it benefits the local economy a lot more if you're encouraging tourism slightly out of season. And you can get just as good weather, if not better sometimes. It seems to always rain down here in August. But otherwise, I think, I don't see anybody picking up the book and then there suddenly being 100 people on a trail the next day,
Okay.
So I don't
blaming
think...
you. Catherine said it was okay to ride here.
Yeah, that's the advantage over events. It's not everybody will be there at the same time. So I think that it all levels out. If you have extra, and it helps local cafes and stores also. So
oh, absolutely! Checking out the local cafes was a very big priority in this book.
Yeah.
Cake testing.
What was really sad was I submitted the copy for the book in autumn last year, at the end of September. And between then and Christmas, 3 of the cafes had actually closed out of the 24 routes. Wow. So, small businesses are getting hit really hard in the UK at the moment. Thankfully, since publishing, one of them has reopened with new owners. I'm not sure about the others yet, but
Well, maybe your book will help bring people to kind of areas that need the money.
That would be really great. And, I'm sure it's not just the book, but, things like this, trying to highlight the importance of small locally owned businesses, I think is really important.
Yeah. And when you need to check all the routes with, because, I know that it's so complicated. I'm from the Netherlands and everything's, we're pretty crowded. And we have a lot of stakeholders that need to be informed, need to give you the permission, even although it's legal. How does it work in the UK? Do you need to inform landowners, forests, rangers, whatever, to point out, okay, I'm publishing this?
I think if it was a event, then you would have to.
Okay.
But because it's just a book, like a guidebook, it's just putting together routes that people can go and ride at any time. You don't need to do that.
Okay. Yeah, well, fair enough.
Thank God.
Yeah, thank God. Well, I know that in some areas in Europe, especially in the northwest part of, even landowners are. We do also some work at events, and then like a state park owner, or and that's government. They will charge you per participants, which is fair enough, but they also give the rules. Okay, 10% of the total price is for. And that's, as an organizer, it's quite complicated. But being, publishing things in a book that not that they're going to give you send an invoice saying, okay, how many did you how many books did you sell? Because we need a percentage.
I guess the only thing we might have in the UK is military land, isn't it? That might be problematic because it can be open at certain times of the month or certain times of the year, but not always open. I'm afraid I haven't looked at all the routes in detail. Is there any of your routes on Exmoor that go through military areas?
Not on Exmoor, but there is one on Salisbury Plain,
right?
Which is in Wiltshire, which is, for anybody who hasn't heard of it, it's just the most amazing network of crisscrossing gravel roads on a military training base. You can check really easily online to see when they're doing their practices. So yeah, I'd highly recommend doing that before heading there. But if the red flags are up and they are doing their exercises, then there are easy ways to reroute, thankfully. But yeah, if you ever get the chance to ride, have you ever ridden Salisbury Plain, Ollie?
No, but I am going to this year for the first time.
Are
which
you?
Is really,
Great.
I'm going to go and do the Stone Circle event at the end of June, which I'm really looking forward to.
I think it's probably the closest that we have, at least in the southwest. I can't speak for the whole of the UK, to sort of that Midwest American gravel, miles upon miles of smoothish, it's gravel tracks and really big rolling countryside. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Great. I look forward to that.
Are there also any limitations as time is concerned for flora and fauna? So if they, like, for example, there's a breeding season, sometimes I know that some areas will be closed because of some birds that I don't know what the situation is in the West.
No, not for cycling. All of the bridleways you can access sort of any day of the year, same with byways, etc. If you had a dog with you, which I think you're fairly unlikely to do on a gravel ride, but there are areas which are more ecologically sensitive with ground nesting birds where you'd be asked to keep your dog on a lead. But no, I think there's nothing like that really for cycling in the southwest.
But I think our listeners get the picture that it's just not clicking away on Komoot and thinking, okay, this is a good route 24 times and you have a book. It's quite complicated.
Oh yeah.
What kind of process do you go through when you're thinking about a potential route? Presumably, it's not just a case of pinning a kind of a flag on a map and saying we're going to do a route here. What would you what process would you do for deciding which one to include?
So I think once I had an idea of a particular area, I do a lot of research first, sort of desk-based research. I use sort of apps to help me understand where I have and haven't ridden before, so I can sort of trace areas that I know are good. Digging back into the archives of all my photos, things. I use Komoot to plot my routes, so things like Komoot Trail View have been really handy for checking out what trails are like. But obviously some of them were in completely new areas to me. For example, in North Devon, I wanted to make sure I had a route on the North Devon coast, and I used like Komoot highlights, seeing where other people have been riding, their photos, their tips to help influence the planning. And then, of course, there's absolutely no substitute for going and actually riding it yourself and recceing. So every single route was ridden. That one, we came home early from our honeymoon to go and recce that one because I was panicking about how much,
so that's
how many routes.
That's dedication.
Yeah. But we had a really, really good day out. And of course, as is the way with route planning and refining, not all of the routes are going to be good. And that's all part of it. So when you come across a stumbling block, whether it's, a trail that doesn't exist anymore or, something that was actually not very much fun, or you're looking for a better way around and you can speak to some local people. I mean, yeah, local knowledge is absolutely key, and lots of people have been involved in that respect, which has been really helpful. And then, so refining, editing, re-riding. I tried to do the recce's at the same time as the photographs to kill two birds with one stone, as we say. So that was, it's a lot mentally to process on that day, making sure you get the photos that look really good and you've got the right people in the right place and coordinating logistics and a photographer and, some friends as models, and making sure that you're remembering the route so that you can write it down for later and make any adjustments.
That's a heck of a lot to do. Yeah. I mean, just a photo shoot is complicated enough. I can't imagine doing the recce at the same time.
Yeah, well, a lot of authors are also multi-talented and take the photographs themselves.
Right.
As well.
Just to add another layer.
And I don't know how they do it. Yeah. So following on from this book, Gravel Rides Wales is currently being recce'd by somebody called Kerry Balshaw. If you look her up on Instagram, if I'm allowed to give her a little plug, she's called Stills by Kerry, and she takes the most beautiful photographs and is currently writing and riding Wales. Yeah. So yeah, it's beyond me how you can manage both writing and photographing at the same time. But and then in terms of the process, then coming home, I always write as much as I can about the route straight away, make any tweaks to the route. And then, there's a nice sort of tidy brief for each route. So they're all quite self-contained, and tick another one off the sheet and on to the next one. I was doing about 2 routes a week through the summer last year.
Wow.
Because it was quite full on, to make an autumn deadline so that it could be published in spring. So it was an intense period of time, but really, really good fun one looking back.
The book in the end's got 24 routes in it. How many did you have on your long list, assuming that you had a long list and a short list, or did you kind of get it pretty accurate straight away?
I think the long list was more in my head than written down.
Okay.
I think something got discounted before it even got to the spreadsheet, if it wasn't a goer. But yeah, you could certainly make a whole load more.
Or was it the second book in the offing in the future?
Yeah, there's always a part 2, right? To be successful. But was it like a demand of the publisher that it needs to be 24, or you just came up with that number because it would get the whole area, with the division of the routes over the area? I mean,
we were actually aiming for 25, but in the end, due to time, I cut one short.
Yeah, okay.
And thankfully 24 is still a really nice number.
Yeah, but it's people maybe, we're in the media business and we know that books is like, still the summum of what we want to achieve as writers especially, but it's a process that takes so much of time. And and it's it's so final when it's published. Like you said, I know you think, those cafes are closed. I know now, but it's already printed and we can't do anything about it. But is it a rewarding process because it takes a long period of time, much of dedication, and people will only know in like 6 or 7 months. Well, when you publish an article online, you get instant result.
I think, it's a very, very different beast. And like you say, most of my work now has been digital. You get people commenting straight away, telling you what they think about it. With the book, it's a beautiful day today, but we're still in March. And I think, 1 or 2 people locally have gone out and written a few of the routes since they took delivery of the book. But the proof of the pudding will be in this summer and I find it very rewarding seeing people, buying the book and investing in it for themselves. But I'm really, really looking forward to seeing people's feedback and hearing, that they've had a great day out, hopefully.
They should
riding some of these routes this summer.
They should tag you on Komoot and Strava when they've ridden there.
Yeah.
Of course. But is it, I'm talking to two authors. I've done some writing myself, but, you're better and more professional. Is it, in comparison to online writing, is it something extra? Is it something that has more value for you personally? Because it's you have a book, it's nicely printed, it's nicely laid out. What's the feeling that you have when you get a book, in your hands?
That's a really good question. I think it's really interesting because I think when you're like a book author, there's a certain level of kudos that comes with it that you don't get from publishing something digitally. And I think perhaps that's because it's harder to do. It takes longer to do. It has to be peer reviewed. It has to be marketed and published. And there's a lot more cost associated with that. It's quite ironic because, I'll be totally honest, writing books, unless you're like somebody, Dawn
Michael
French,
Crichton or something,
writing their autobiography, writing books doesn't make money. Writing digitally, if you've got a job like, as I do, writing for magazines, I can make a living from. So it's quite interesting that it's held in such high regard, despite it not being a particularly profitable thing to do. But when you actually, I've got a copy here, physically holding it in your hand and looking through the pages and the photographs and everything from that time, that is so special for me. That is a snapshot of my life, just speaking personally, in 2024, and all of my friends that got involved, all of my friends that were photographing, all of my friends from the bike industry who helped put together routes and who advise, and that is amazing, and nobody can ever take that away from me.
Yeah.
I'm going to cry now. Sound a bit emotional.
There's a fantastic photograph you have on your Instagram account of you holding presumably an early copy of the book that just captures, with no words at all, exactly what it must feel. I mean, you can see it in your eyes that I made this. Yeah. And digitally, it doesn't work, does it? You go, oh, great, I wrote 5,000 words of copy and hit send. It's not the same, is it, as having something physical?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it.
It might be difficult for people outside of the media world to understand, but I feel with you, because it's so rewarding and it's a long process, and you know that you have to think every step through to the last details, rather than just we could online we can I made a typo, but I will change it right now. So it's strange actually, because like you said, we know that writing books is probably the worst pay. You could, have a job at McDonald's pays more than writing a book. But it's it's also something for eternity, because it's so final, and it's you can show people. You're rightfully proud. It's so great to have an achievement like that. I hope, Olly. Did you ever write a book, Olly?
No, I'm afraid not. I have had print articles done in the past, like Catherine, but not a book.
Well, I wrote a book in the 90s.
Really?
Yeah, I did. But it was not really a bestseller. And
at least you had to unprint it.
It was really strange, because I had to write a book, or I was asked to write a book about internet in the early days of internet, and I was going like, okay, why should I write a book about the internet? So that's Grandpa is telling his stories, but it's if you want a copy, just let me know.
A signed one, though, obviously.
Yeah. I don't know whether they're still available, but I wouldn't recommend it. Anyway, it's so nice to hear you talking about the process, about the book. Is there going to be a part 2, or is it too early?
I think perhaps too early to say. I really loved putting together Gravel Ride Southwest England, because this is my home and this is the area that I know super well, and I felt confident that I could share that. So I think, for now, I'll keep it at that. And yeah.
Do you have the first results in? Because you should, promote the book, and it's also on the show notes, and we will obviously also add a link where it can be bought. What are the first response from your publisher?
Oh,
your cat is coming along. That's nice.
Sorry, she's getting involved. I think they're really pleased. The pre-orders went really, really well. We were really lucky to have a wonderful prize bundle put together by our friends at Silverfish Gravel, who are just down the road in Plymouth. So it was really nice to involve a local cycling distributor for that. So that was great. And yeah, I just keep seeing lots of people tagging me on Instagram with their book copies. So that's really, really lovely. In terms of sales figures, I don't really know. But yeah, just glad to see people getting out there with it.
Because as a buyer, as a reader of the book, it's not, I also have some books on routes across the world, in my country, in other countries. And, I might even never ride them, but it's fun to read about it. And so it's not only a book that you buy because you want to see the area, but you can also, that's the advantage of book. And if you have good pictures, that you can get the feel of, okay, I might put West UK on my to-do list.
Absolutely. I think that's it. You don't have to take every single route and the GPX download and do every single one exactly as they are. It can just be a bit of inspiration. Somebody that I know through another line of work bought one. She's not even a bike rider. She just said it looked really nice and she wanted to get a bit of inspiration of where to go for walks in the southwest. Yeah. And I thought that was lovely.
Oh, great.
So you've done your job
very
properly,
supportive.
haven't you, in that case? Are you allowed to have a favourite route in the book? If Carlo was going to come to the UK to ride, which one would you suggest he goes to do?
Oh, for Carlo, we can choose a pretty tough one, can't we? I
don't know that, Catherine, but you can challenge me.
It's really hard to choose. I'm slightly biased, and I really love some of the ones on Dartmoor because that's home. And Dartmoor on a good day is barren is the wrong word. It's this great wilderness that can be very hostile and unforgiving, but on a good day it can also be absolutely spectacular. I also really love the route on Exmoor, which is probably one of the greenest places you'll ever ride a bike. It's so lush, and you have sort of huge high bracken in the summer months and these rounded topped hills, absolutely glorious river valleys, and really, really remote feeling climbs into these remote valleys where you can get to the top and then look out and see the whole of Wales, or South Wales at least. It's very bizarre, but one of those ones you just have to try to believe it. And also West Cornwall, right down on the tip there is just spectacular. Riding the gravel along the coastline past all the old tin mining relics. It's just... So no, I can't choose one, sorry.
Well, it's good. You're selling the Southwest.
Still haven't planned anything for July and August, so August might be not a good month, but...
it's too busy.
Yeah. So, I've never been there, actually, in that area.
Good excuse to go now, then, Carlo.
Yeah. Maybe
we're quite lucky because we have a ferry to Plymouth, which is in Devon, it goes to Roscoff, and I think there's also one slightly further. Yeah, Brittany ferries. So, for people in France, or if you can drive across, it's quite easy to get to on a ferry.
Okay.
So we get quite a lot of French, German and Dutch visitors to the southwest. Well,
then I can mingle in.
Yeah, of course. You'll be at home.
I've got the right accent, so I'm putting it in pencil on the list. But I like a zillion other destinations, but I like it. And when I go and visit your area, I will get back to you to have the final routes that I really need to do.
A personal guide.
Oh yes.
Yeah, we could ride together.
What else have you got on your gravel list of things to do this year, Catherine? Now, you finished your book. Presumably there was quite a big sense of relief when it was done.
Absolutely.
What else have you got to look forward to this year?
Well, we did end up having quite a short local honeymoon in Wales. Not just because of the book, but also, you know, a few other things like trying to sell our house all at the same time. Okay. So we're going to have a big epic holiday for our first anniversary in June. We're going to go to Lake Garda and ride the Grand Garda bikepacking route, which takes in a lap of Lake Garda up into the mountains, put together by Matteo Manelli, the same guy who did the Gran Guanche route, because he's from Lake Garda originally. So that's his home bikepacking route. So I'm really excited about going and doing that. I'm going to ride my gravel bike. My husband is going to ride his mountain bike. We'll probably both be on the wrong sort of bike at some point or another. But, you know, it's what we're both most comfortable on. So
great. The scenery is amazing. The little bits of it that I know, it's absolutely incredible.
Oh, good. It's quite expensive. I didn't realise.
I think
I guess it's quite a touristy place
with Italian tourists. So that it's the demand is there, so they can put the prices up.
Yeah, it's really touristic, and you will meet a lot of Dutch people out there, because it's one of the Lake Garda is like one of the go-tos for because it's not that far.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so but it's great there. I've been cycling there, and also all kinds of terrain, like you said. Your husband will be in the advantage now and again, but you will be also definitely sometimes.
Yeah, I just have to wait until the spring to book the mountain refuges. You have to wait until they're open, and you have to call up. Of course, you can't book online. So I'm practicing my Italian as we speak.
Great. Well, Olly can help you out there.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. How about you guys? What have you got planned?
Well, go on, Carlo. You go first. What's on your list for this summer?
I was in Spain last week. Olly has like a more exotic list than I have to be honest. I've been recovering from an injury, so I haven't planned too much. But I'm getting into I'm getting into shape a little bit more. It's not that I'm great, but I might do. I'm thinking of Sweden.
Ooh.
Sweden, and Norway is also on the list, so it might be in the Nordic area, and maybe Dartmoor seems to be pushed on the list also.
Very good.
Sweden, Denmark, Norway, Dartmoor. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I know people there.
And
how about you, Olly? Go on, make us jealous.
I've been very lucky already. I've only just come back from being in Sri Lanka, and before that I was in Nepal, so I've had a very good start to the year. But my next big trip, I'm going on holiday in July with some friends who are going mountain biking in the Italian Dolomites for 10 days, which will be fun. And then in September, I'm going to go and do Carlo's event, the Ride Gravel, which will be very fun. Yeah,
I'm jealous because I would like to do that as well, the Ride Gravel. But I'm in a different chair then. Okay. It's my work, so I shouldn't complain.
Yeah. Right, I think we've got through all of our questions except the last one, and this is episode 30 of the podcast, and we've always asked our guests exactly the same question, but I thought in honour of you being a guidebook author, we're going to have a different final question, which we might make the new final question from now on. So what we asked before is, what bike would you take if you were put on a desert island? But we're going to give you a different one, which is, if there's anywhere in the world that you haven't been yet, where would it be and why?
This is such a hard question, Olly. I have been really struggling to think about an answer for this. We went, both Olly and I, to Sri Lanka a couple of years ago, and it was probably one of the most remarkable weeks of my life.
Yeah. Just
the culture change, in addition to the riding, which was absolutely spectacular. So I'd like to think somewhere quite exotic again. I really, really love the Middle East. I haven't cycled in the Middle East, but I visited a few times and I found the people absolutely incredible. So I'd love to go back on a bike, but I'm not sure right now is the best time. I'd also love to ride my bike in Africa. Basically, I would go anywhere. And I just think travelling by bike is the most incredible way to see a place. But in terms of just trying to pick out one, I'm absolutely stumped because I want to go everywhere.
Too much choice.
That's a terrible answer, isn't it?
I think we could make this our final question for everybody, Carlo, because it's a good one.
Yeah,
because
it's a really hard one.
Makes you think.
It makes you think a bit.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, Catherine. We're heading out. Thank you very much, Catherine, for joining us for this episode, and everybody for listening in. If you have any suggestions for guests or topics you would like us to feature in future shows, then please post a comment on our Facebook page or DM us on Insta, or send us an email, info@thegravelunion.cc. I know that Olly is waiting eagerly to answer you. Please like and star us on your favorite podcast platform, and make sure to leave some hopefully positive remarks. Don't forget, if you like what you've heard on this episode, there's lots more great stories, featured in news pieces, and all the latest gravel event information over on the gravelunion.cc website. Special thanks for Martijn for the music, and Ruben for editing the show, and of course a special thanks to Catherine for being once again on our show. Hope to see you earlier than 3 years time. Thanks all for listening, and hope you can join us again for the next episode of Gravel Union Talks.